You're great, but I won't be able to do it. It's too big for me to handle. The crystal tumbler shattered against the floor-to-ceiling window, expensive bourbon dripping down the glass like tears. Sukjin watched the woman grab her designer purse with trembling hands, her eyes wide with something between fear and disappointment. "I'm sorry," she stammered, backing toward the door. "You're incredible, really, but I can't do this." Someone could actually get seriously hurt. The penthouse door slammed shut with a finality that echoed through the silence. Sukjin poured another drink, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. That made 8 women in 4 months. 8 different versions of the same conversation that all ended with him standing alone in a multi-million-dollar apartment that felt more like a prison than a home. His phone vibrated across the marble counter. Tae, his second in command. "Boss, Volkov's crew is making moves at the warehouse. Need you here." Sukjin stared at the message, then threw his phone onto the leather sofa. For once, the organization could handle their own problems. He had bigger demons to wrestle with tonight. The memories crashed over him like a wave he couldn't outrun. For days ago, everything felt different. For days ago, he'd convinced himself maybe things could change. He'd been reviewing quarterly reports in his office at the Lotus Tower Casino when Tae walked in wearing that particular grin that always meant he'd found trouble and wanted to share it. "Boss, you need to see this new girl performing at Velvet Nights," Tae had said, dropping into the chair across from Sukjin's desk. "Absolutely stunning. Like nothing you've ever seen." "Not interested," Sukjin muttered without looking up from the spreadsheet showing their import numbers from Busan. "Come on, man. When's the last time you even tried to meet someone?" 3 weeks ago. Didn't end well. "That corporate lawyer? What happened there?" Sukjin's expression hardened. "Same thing that always happens." Tae went quiet. He was one of 4 people who knew about Sukjin's situation. The curse of being built like a god, but having a body that made intimacy feel impossible. "You can't just give up, boss. There's someone out there who..." "Drop it, Tae." But Tae didn't drop it. He spent the next hour insisting they hit Velvet Nights, the exclusive club in the meatpacking district where Manhattan's elite went to pretend they were dangerous. Finally, just to end the conversation, Sukjin agreed. That night, Sukjin had walked into Velvet Nights in a tailored black suit that cost more than most people made in 6 months. The place was packed with hedge fund managers and tech entrepreneurs trying to cosplay as gangsters. Blue lights pulsed through the darkness. Music vibrated through the floor. Women circulated through the crowd like sharks sensing blood in the water. "VIP section, boss," Tae said, guiding him to a roped-off area with a perfect view of the main stage. Sukjin ordered whiskey and tried to ignore the familiar emptiness settling in his chest. He'd built an empire by 32. Had money that could buy small countries. Had power that made grown men cross the street to avoid him. But he couldn't keep a woman interested for longer than an evening once reality set in. Then the lights shifted. A spotlight hit center stage, and the DJ's voice cut through the music. The woman who emerged from behind the curtain made Sukjin forget he was holding a drink. She moved with a confidence that bordered on dangerous, every gesture deliberate and unapologetic. The lights caught her skin like she was made of something precious. Her eyes swept across the crowd with the kind of knowing that came from seeing too much and surviving anyway. "That's her," Tae whispered. "Vivian. Been here 3 months. Every rich guy in Manhattan's been trying to get a private session. She says yes to maybe 1 in 50. Sukjin watched her command that stage, defying physics and expectations in equal measure, and something shifted behind his ribs. Not just attraction, though that hit him like a freight train. Recognition. She had that same look in her eyes that he saw in the mirror every morning. The look of someone who'd walked through fire and came out the other side permanently changed. When her set ended, she walked straight to the bar without acknowledging the men trying to get her attention. Sukjin found himself standing before his brain caught up with his body. "Boss, where are you?" Tae called after him, but Sukjin was already weaving through the crowd, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. He reached the bar as she was ordering water, her back to him. "Can I buy you something stronger?" Sukjin asked. She turned slowly, studying him with eyes that cataloged every detail in seconds. "I don't drink while I'm working, and I don't do private dances for men I don't know. So if that's what you're here for, save us both some time." "I'm not." "Then what do you want?" Sukjin found himself smiling. 5 minutes of conversation. That's all. Vivian examined him the way someone might examine a chessboard, calculating risks and potential moves. Finally, she nodded toward an empty booth in a shadowed corner. 5 minutes. Clock's ticking. They sat across from each other, and up close, she was even more striking. But it was her eyes that held him. Ancient eyes in a young face. Eyes that had witnessed things no one should have to see. "You're Sukjin Kang," she said. Not a question. A statement of fact. "You know who I am. Everyone knows who you are. The question is why the most powerful man in Manhattan is sitting in a strip club looking like someone stole his favorite toy." Despite everything, Sukjin laughed. "That obvious? You've got this look like you're searching for something you're convinced doesn't exist." She leaned back, arms crossed. "Let me guess. You're used to getting whatever you want, but there's this one thing that keeps slipping away. Can't be money or power. Men like you are drowning in both. So it must be connection. Real connection. Not the kind people fake because they're scared of you or want something from you." Her words hit so close to the truth that Sukjin felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the low-cut club. "And you?" he asked. "What do you want?" To make it through tonight without some entitled asshole thinking my smile is an invitation to put his hands where they don't belong. She stood up. "Time's up." "Wait." Sukjin pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. "Tomorrow night. Dinner. Anywhere you choose. No expectations, no games." Vivian stared at the card like it might explode. "Why?" "Because in the last 5 minutes, you've been more honest with me than anyone has in months. And because I think you're tired of pretending too." She took the card, her fingers brushing his for just a fraction of a second. "One dinner. But I'm carrying pepper spray, and I actually know how to fight. I wouldn't expect anything less." She disappeared into the crowd, and Sukjin watched her go, feeling something he hadn't felt in so long he'd almost forgotten the sensation. Hope. Stupid, dangerous, probably going to destroy him hope. He had no idea that accepting that dinner invitation would trigger a chain reaction ending with bodies in the Hudson, his empire in flames, and both their lives hanging by a thread so thin it could snap at any moment. The next evening, Sukjin stood outside Le Bernardin, checking his Patek Philippe for the 4th time. 7:40. She was 10 minutes late, and he was starting to think she'd ghosted him entirely. Then a black town car pulled up, and Vivian stepped out wearing a burgundy dress that somehow made her look more elegant than every society woman he'd ever dated combined. She walked up to him with that same unshakable confidence from the club, but he noticed her death grip on her clutch. "You actually showed," Sukjin said. "I almost didn't." She looked up at the restaurant's discreet entrance. "This place has a year-long waiting list." "Not for me." "Right. Because you're Sukjin Kang." Something flickered in her voice that he couldn't quite identify. Not quite mockery, not quite admiration. Inside, the maitre d' practically bowed them to a private corner table overlooking the garden. Sukjin ordered wine. Vivian ordered sparkling water. "You really don't drink?" he asked. "My mom was an alcoholic. Watched her drink herself into an early grave by the time I was 17. She said it the way someone might read a weather report. Clinical. Distant. Figured I'd skip that particular genetic lottery." Sukjin set down his wine glass. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." It taught me what I needed to know about weakness. She studied the menu. So, what's your damage? Because nobody sits alone in strip clubs with that look unless they're running from something. Sukjin laughed despite himself. You don't do small talk, do you? Life's too short for bullshit. Tell me why New York's most eligible bachelor can't keep a relationship going longer than a month. The gossip blogs have theories. Some say you're gay. Some say you're secretly married. My personal favorite is that you're actually a robot programmed to seduce and destroy. And what do you think? Vivian leaned forward, locking eyes with him. I think you've got a secret that sends people running, and I think it's eating you alive from the inside out. The waiter arrived with appetizers, giving Sukjin a moment to breathe. They ate in loaded silence, but he could feel her watching him, waiting. You're right, he finally admitted. I have a problem. Physical issue. Makes relationships complicated. How complicated? Sukjin shifted uncomfortably. He'd never discussed this so directly except with doctors who treated it like a medical curiosity. Complicated enough that 8 women have walked out on me in the last 4 months. Complicated enough that I've stopped trying. Vivian didn't flinch, didn't look away. And you think I'm going to be different? I don't know. Maybe. You seem like someone who doesn't scare easily. Don't mistake fearless for stupid, Sukjin. I'm neither. She set down her fork. Here's the deal. You tell me the truth about why we're really here, and I'll decide whether I'm staying or leaving. Sukjin took a breath. This was the moment. The edge of the cliff, where everything either worked or fell apart spectacularly. I'm exhausted of being alone. I'm exhausted of women who want me for my money or my power, or the thrill of sleeping with someone dangerous. I saw you on that stage, and I saw someone real. Someone who survived things. Someone who might understand that not everything that looks perfect actually is. That's quite a speech. It's the truth. Vivian was quiet for a long moment, fingers drumming on the white tablecloth. Okay, here's my truth. I dance because it pays for my nursing degree. I'm 2 semesters from finishing. I moved to New York from Atlanta 4 years ago with $300 and a dream, and I've clawed my way up from absolute zero. I don't need saving, and I don't need a sugar daddy. But I wouldn't mind meeting someone who sees me as more than a fantasy or a conquest. I can do that. Can you? Because men like you, Sukjin, you're used to owning things. People. Situations. I'm not something you can own. I don't want to own you. Then what do you want? Sukjin reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. A chance. Just a chance to see if maybe we're both wrong about how alone we have to be. Vivian stared at his hand, then at him. Finally, she placed her hand in his. One chance. But the second you lie to me, the second you try to control me, I'm gone. Understood. Understood. They finished dinner talking about everything except the obvious tension building between them. She told him about growing up in Atlanta, about her mother's decline, about the aunt who'd raised her when things fell apart. He told her about building his organization from nothing, about the violence he'd witnessed, about the isolation that came with power. By the time dessert arrived, Sukjin realized he hadn't thought about his problem once in 3 hours. He was too busy being fascinated by the woman sitting across from him. So what now? Vivian asked as they left the restaurant. I take you back to your place in Brooklyn, and we see if your complication is as catastrophic as you think it is. Heat crept up Sukjin's neck. I wasn't assuming. Relax. I'm messing with you. But there was something in her eyes. Curiosity. Challenge. Though eventually we're going to have to address the elephant in the room. Or should I say the elephant in your pants? Despite himself, Sukjin laughed. You're impossible. And you like it? She stepped closer. Close enough that he could smell her perfume, something warm and spicy. Here's what's going to happen. You're taking me home to my apartment. And we're taking this slow. Because whatever this complication is, Rushing into it isn't going to help either of us. You're not afraid? Sukjin, I've survived things that would shatter most people. I think I can handle whatever you're worried about. She kissed him on the cheek, her lips soft against his skin. But not tonight. Tonight, you're going to go home and decide if you're ready for someone who won't run. And I'm going to decide if I'm crazy for even considering this. She walked toward the street to hail a cab, and Sukjin watched her go, feeling like he'd just survived a hurricane and wasn't entirely sure if he was relieved or disappointed. His phone buzzed. Tay, boss, we've got a situation. Volkov's nephew turned up dead. Found in the East River 2 hours ago. They're blaming us. Sukjin's blood turned to ice. He typed back quickly. I didn't authorize any hits. I know. Someone's setting us up. Sukjin glanced at Vivian just climbing into a cab. She looked back at him, smiled, waved. His two worlds were about to collide in ways he couldn't begin to predict. He made a decision. He'd handle Volkov. He'd find whoever was trying to ignite a war. But he wouldn't let it touch her. Wouldn't let the darkness of his world swallow the one genuine thing he'd found in years. The cab drove away and Sukjin pulled out his phone. Tay, gather all the captains. Emergency meeting at the warehouse in 1 hour. And get Min to pull security footage from every camera within 10 blocks of where they found the body. Someone's playing games and I want names. The next 3 days were a blur of meetings, threats, and tense negotiations. The Volkov family wanted blood. Sukjin had to prove his innocence while simultaneously hunting down who'd actually killed their nephew. Turned out to be one of his own soldiers, a hothead named Chul who'd been skimming from the sports betting operations and panicked when the Russians started asking questions. Sukjin had Chul delivered to Volkov's people in a car trunk. The message was crystal clear. He handled his own problems, and he didn't tolerate disloyalty. The Russians accepted it. Barely. But the damage was done. Trust was shattered. Everyone was on edge. Through it all, Vivian texted him. Nothing heavy. Just little messages that made him smile despite the chaos. Photos of her roommate's cat. Complaints about her pharmacology professor. Random memes that somehow always landed at exactly the right moment. On the 4th night, she called. You've been quiet. Work stuff. It's complicated. The kind of complicated where people end up dead? Sukjin froze. What do you know about my work? Sukjin, I'm not stupid. I know what you are. Knew it the second I saw you. Her voice was calm, steady. Question is whether you're going to lie about it or respect me enough to be honest. I'm not a good man, Vivian. Did I ask if you were good? I asked if you were going to be honest. Sukjin sat down on his office couch, suddenly exhausted. Yes, the kind of complicated where people end up dead. Someone tried to start a war between my organization and the Russians. I handled it, but it was close. Are you safe? For now. Then come over. I'm making dinner, and you sound like you need to eat something that isn't takeout from a styrofoam container. Sukjin shouldn't have gone. He had a dozen fires to extinguish, a dozen loose ends to tie up. But he found himself in his Aston Martin driving to Brooklyn, parking outside a modest building that probably cost less per month than he spent on watches. Vivian buzzed him up to the 4th floor. Her apartment was small but immaculate. Books everywhere. Medical textbooks stacked on the coffee table. The smell of something incredible coming from the kitchen. Sit, she ordered, pointing to the couch. Food's almost ready. Sukjin sat, feeling profoundly out of place in his $15,000 suit in her humble apartment. But also feeling something else. Something like peace. She brought out plates of jerk chicken, rice, and peas, fried plantains. My aunt's recipe. Not fancy, but it's real. They ate on her couch watching some cooking competition show she was obsessed with, and Sukjin couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so normal. So human. Thank you, he said after they finished. For what? For not running. For not treating me like I'm some monster. Vivian set down her plate and turned to face him. Sukjin, I grew up around men like you. My uncle was in the game before he got locked up for 20 years. I know the life. I know what it costs. And I know that the men who survive it aren't monsters. They're just people trying to win a rigged game. She moved closer, and Sukjin's heart started pounding. But here's the thing. If we're going to do this, if we're really going to try, you need to understand something. I won't be your escape. I won't be the good girl who saves you from yourself. I've got my own demons, my own darkness. So if we're doing this, we're doing it as equals. Two people who know the world is ugly and are trying to find something beautiful anyway. I can live with that. Can you? Because eventually we're going to have to deal with your complication, and I need to know you're not going to shut down on me when we do. Sukjin took a deep breath. It's not that I don't want to. God, Vivian, you have no idea how much I want to. But every woman who's tried, who's seen, they all leave. And I don't think I can handle watching you leave too. Vivian reached out and touched his face, her hand soft against his cheek. Then let's make a deal. Right now, tonight, we're just two people sitting on a couch. No expectations, no pressure. We'll deal with everything else when we're both ready. Okay. She leaned in and kissed him. Soft and slow. And Sukjin felt something break open in his chest. Something that had been locked away for so long he'd forgotten it was there. They spent the night talking, kissing, existing in a bubble where his organization didn't exist and her struggles didn't matter. Just two people finding each other in the darkness. Sukjin left at dawn, and as he drove back to Manhattan, his phone rang. Tay, boss, we've got a problem. Major problem. What now? It's about the girl. Vivian. I did some digging like you asked, just to make sure she was clean. Sukjin's stomach dropped. And? Boss, she's not who she says she is. Sukjin nearly swerved into oncoming traffic. What the hell are you talking about? Pull over, boss. You need to hear this sitting down. Sukjin found a side street in Tribeca and parked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Talk. Tay's voice was grim. Her real name is Vivian Carter. That part's true. But 4 years ago, she wasn't running from poverty in Atlanta. She was running from a murder warrant. The world tilted sideways. That's impossible. I've got the police reports right here, boss. Her boyfriend at the time, Derek Hayes, was found dead in their apartment. Single gunshot wound to the chest. Vivian disappeared the same night. Atlanta PD issued a warrant, but she vanished. Changed her appearance, came to New York, started over. Sukjin's mind raced. If there's a warrant, why hasn't she been arrested? That's the interesting part. The warrant was dropped 8 months later. Case went cold. Derek's family stopped cooperating with police. It's like someone made it all disappear. Who? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But boss, there's more. Derek Hayes wasn't some random boyfriend. He was connected. Low-level enforcer for the Disciples, one of Atlanta's biggest crews. And get this, 3 weeks before he died, he was seen meeting with FBI agents. Sukjin felt sick. You think she's a federal agent? I think she's something. Could be an agent. Could be a witness they relocated. Could be she really did kill him and someone helped her disappear. Either way, she lied to you about everything. Send me everything you have. Sukjin hung up and stared at the steering wheel, his thoughts spiraling. Every moment with Vivian replayed in his head, every conversation now tainted with doubt. Had she targeted him? Was this whole thing a setup? His phone buzzed with incoming files from Tay. Police reports. Photos of a crime scene. And pictures of Vivian from 4 years ago, looking younger, harder, standing next to a man with dead eyes and gang tattoos covering his arms. Sukjin's phone rang. Vivian. He stared at her name on the screen, his finger hovering over the answer button. Finally, he picked up. Good morning, she said, her voice warm. I know you just left, but I couldn't stop thinking about last night. We need to talk. Her tone shifted immediately. What's wrong? Not over the phone. Meet me at the warehouse on Delancey in 1 hour. Sukjin, you're scaring me. 1 hour, Vivian. Or whatever your real name is. He hung up before she could respond. The warehouse was one of Sukjin's legitimate holdings, a storage facility for imported goods that occasionally served other purposes. When Vivian arrived, Sukjin was waiting with Tae and 3 other men. She walked in wearing jeans and a leather jacket, her hair pulled back. And Sukjin could see the exact moment she realized this wasn't a casual meeting. Her hand moved toward her purse. Don't, Tae said, stepping forward. We just want to talk, Sukjin added. With an audience? Vivian's eyes found his. What the hell is this? Sukjin pulled out his phone and showed her the police report. Tell me about Derek Hayes. The color drained from her face. For a long moment, she just stared at the screen. And Sukjin watched her carefully, looking for any sign of deception. Any hint of the federal agent or professional liar he was terrified she might be. Can we do this in private? She finally asked. No. Sukjin, please. You lied to me about everything. So no, you don't get privacy. You get to explain right here, right now, why I shouldn't assume you're either a cop or playing some game I don't understand. Vivian's jaw tightened. She looked at Tae and the other men, then back at Sukjin. Fine. You want the truth? Derek was my boyfriend. And yes, I killed him. The warehouse went dead silent. He was going to kill me first, Vivian continued, her voice steady despite the tremor Sukjin could see in her hands. I found out he was working with the FBI. He cut a deal to testify against the disciples in exchange for witness protection. But he was stupid. Told me about it one night when he was high, thinking I'd be happy, thinking we'd run away together and start over. So you killed him, Tae said. So he tried to kill me, Vivian snapped. The disciples found out about his deal. They sent people to our apartment. Derek panicked. Figured if he killed me and delivered my body to them, proved his loyalty, they'd forgive him. I walked in on him loading a gun. She pulled up her shirt, revealing a scar along her ribs that Sukjin had noticed before but never asked about. He shot me first. Missed anything vital, but I went down. He was standing over me, about to finish it, when I grabbed his ankle. Made him fall. The gun went off. Bullet went through his chest. And then you ran, Sukjin said. And then I ran. I was 20 years old, bleeding, with a dead body in my apartment. I knew the disciples would come for me. I knew the FBI would want answers. So I took what cash Derek had hidden, got myself to a clinic that didn't ask questions, and disappeared. How'd the warrant get dropped? Vivian smiled bitterly. You really want to know? Derek's sister, Keisha. She's the only one who knew the truth about what he was planning. She told the police it was self-defense, that Derek had been violent before. She refused to cooperate with the investigation. Without her testimony, and without me, the DA couldn't make a case. Tae pulled up something on his tablet. Keisha Hayes. Currently a paralegal in Atlanta. Clean record. He looked at Sukjin. It checks out, boss. But Sukjin wasn't satisfied. Why not go to the police yourself if it was self-defense? Because I'm a black girl from the hood who killed her boyfriend, and he was about to be a federal witness. You think any jury was going to believe me? You think the disciples were going to let me live long enough to testify? Vivian's voice cracked. I did what I had to do to survive. Just like you've done things to survive in your world. Don't you dare judge me for that. Don't compare us. I never lied to you. Really? What about your complication? How long were you planning to wait before telling me the truth about that? Or were you just hoping I'd figure it out and deal with it? Sukjin felt heat rise in his face. That's different. How? We both have secrets. We both have pasts we're not proud of. The only difference is I didn't send my people to investigate you behind your back. You killed someone. So have you. Vivian shouted. Don't act like you're some innocent victim here. You run an organization that deals in violence every single day. You've ordered people beaten, maybe killed. But somehow my defending myself makes me the monster. The warehouse echoed with her words. Tae shifted uncomfortably. Sukjin felt his carefully constructed moral high ground crumbling beneath him. I didn't target you, Vivian said quietly. I didn't seek you out. You came to me, remember? You sat at that bar and asked for 5 minutes. And I gave you a chance because I thought maybe, just maybe, you were someone who could understand what it's like to live with ghosts. Sukjin wanted to stay angry. Wanted to hold on to his righteous indignation. But looking at her, seeing the pain and defiance in her eyes, he saw himself. Saw someone who'd done terrible things to stay alive and had been paying for it ever since. Everyone out, he said. Tae hesitated. Boss. Out. Now. Tae and the others filed out, leaving Sukjin and Vivian alone in the vast, empty warehouse. The silence stretched between them like a living thing. I should have told you, Vivian finally said, before things got serious. But I was afraid. Afraid you'd look at me differently. Afraid you'd see me as damaged goods. I am damaged goods. I know. That's why I thought we had a chance. She took a step toward him. Sukjin, I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm not asking you to forgive me. But I am asking you to understand that I'm not the enemy here. I'm just a girl trying to outrun her past. Same as you. Sukjin closed his eyes. Every instinct told him to walk away, to cut his losses before things got messy. But there was another voice, quieter but more insistent, whispering that he'd never find anyone else who understood him like she did. No more lies, he said. About anything. I don't care how ugly the truth is. I need to know I can trust you. Same goes for you. Including telling me about this complication that's got you so twisted up. Sukjin took a deep breath. This was it. The moment he'd been dreading since that first dinner. It's my size. I'm too big. Every woman I've been with, once things progress, they panic. They say it won't fit, that they'll get hurt, that it's too much. And they're not wrong. I've had women end up in pain, crying, asking me to stop. So I stopped trying. Vivian processed this information, her expression unreadable. How big are we talking? Does it matter? Sukjin, I'm going to be a nurse. I've seen every body type imaginable. So yes, it matters. Because I need to know if we're talking about something manageable or something that requires actual medical intervention. Despite everything, Sukjin almost laughed. Leave it to Vivian to approach his deepest insecurity like a clinical problem to be solved. Big enough that regular condoms don't fit. Big enough that I've had to special order things. Big enough that foreplay isn't enough. Patience isn't enough. It just doesn't work. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Then she crossed the distance between them and took his hands. Listen to me. I've been through worse than a physical challenge. And if you think I'm going to run because of biology, you don't know me at all. Vivian, we'll figure it out together. Like adults who communicate and don't panic at the first sign of difficulty. Okay. Sukjin looked down at their joined hands, marveling at the absurdity of the moment. An hour ago, he was ready to end things, convinced she'd betrayed him. Now they were discussing his anatomy in a warehouse like it was a business negotiation. Okay, he said. She kissed him then. Hard and desperate. And Sukjin felt the last of his resistance crumble. They were both broken. Both running. Both trying to find something real in a world built on lies. Maybe that was enough. They left the warehouse together, Sukjin's arm around her shoulders, and he felt lighter than he had in years. The weight of his secret shared. The burden of loneliness lifted slightly. His phone buzzed. Min, one of his captains. Boss, we've got movement on the Volkov situation. They're meeting with the Bratva tonight. Word is they're planning something big. Sukjin's good mood evaporated. The Russians were supposed to be settled. He delivered chul, made peace. What were they planning now? I have to handle something, he told Vivian. Business. The dangerous kind. She squeezed his hand. Be careful. I didn't go through all this just to lose you to a bullet. Sukjin kissed her forehead and headed to his car, already mentally planning the night ahead. He'd have to pull together their best people, set up surveillance on the meeting location, find out what Volkov was really planning. He didn't see the black Escalade parked across the street. Didn't notice the camera pointed at him and Vivian. Didn't know that someone was watching, documenting, planning. And he had no idea that by tomorrow morning, photographs of him and Vivian would be sitting on a desk in FBI headquarters in Manhattan, setting in motion events that would destroy everything he'd built. The agent staring at those photos smiled. After 4 years of searching, they'd finally found Vivian Carter. And as a bonus, she'd attached herself to one of the biggest targets in New York organized crime. Agent Rachel Morrison picked up her phone. Sir, you're going to want to see this. Our missing witness just resurfaced. And you'll never guess who she's dating. The wheels were in motion. The trap was set. And neither Sukjin nor Vivian had any idea that their past was about to collide with their present in ways that would leave them with an impossible choice. Betray each other or burn together. Sukjin didn't sleep that night. He spent hours at his office in Koreatown coordinating surveillance on the Volkov meeting while simultaneously trying to make sense of what had happened with Vivian. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face when she'd confessed to killing Derek. Not guilt. Not shame. Just raw, unfiltered survival instinct. He understood that better than he wanted to admit. Around 4 a.m, Tay burst through the door without knocking. Boss, we've got a problem. The meeting with the Bratva. It wasn't about us. Sukjin looked up from his laptop. What do you mean? They're planning a hit. But not on our people. They're going after someone in Atlanta. A woman named Keisha Hayes. The room tilted. Derek's sister. Yeah. Apparently the disciples down there just found out she helped Vivian escape. They sold the information to Volkov as a gesture of goodwill, trying to build connections up north. Volkov's sending people to Atlanta tomorrow night. Sukjin's blood ran cold. Why would Volkov care about some paralegal in Atlanta? Because he knows about Vivian, boss. He knows she's with you, and he's using Keisha as leverage. How the hell does he know about Vivian? Tay pulled out his phone and showed Sukjin a series of photographs. Sukjin and Vivian leaving the warehouse together, kissing outside her apartment, having dinner at La Bernardine, all timestamped from the last few days. Someone's been watching you. They sent these to Volkov yesterday. He reached out to the disciples, got the whole story about Derek and Keisha, and now he's making his move. Sukjin stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. This is about the nephew. He never forgave me for Chul. He's going after Vivian through Keisha. What do you want to do? Get everyone together. Every captain, every soldier we can trust. We're going to Atlanta. Boss, that's disciples' territory. We go in there making moves, we'll start a war on 2 fronts. Then we start a war. I'm not letting him touch her family. Sukjin grabbed his jacket. And get Vivian on the phone. She needs to know what's happening. But when Tay called Vivian's number, it went straight to voicemail. He tried 3 more times. Nothing. A sick feeling settled in Sukjin's stomach. Send someone to her apartment. Now. 20 minutes later, Sukjin got the call he'd been dreading. Boss, she's not here. Place looks like she left in a hurry. Drawers open, closet half empty. Her roommate's cat is gone too. Sukjin felt like he'd been punched. She ran. Looks that way. But something didn't add up. Vivian wasn't a runner. She'd stood in that warehouse and confessed to murder rather than lied to him. She'd kissed him knowing everything was complicated and messy and dangerous. Why would she run now? Unless someone made her run. Sukjin's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We have your girlfriend. Come alone to Pier 17 in 1 hour, or we start mailing her back to you in pieces. Tell anyone and she dies. It's a trap, Tae said, reading over Sukjin's shoulder. Obviously. You can't go alone. I'm not leaving her with them. Boss, think about this. They want you dead. This is Volkov's play. He takes out you and the girl, makes it look like a lover's quarrel gone wrong, and suddenly our organization is in chaos. Sukjin stopped at the door. Tae was right. This was exactly the kind of move Volkov would make. Efficient, brutal, designed to cause maximum damage. So, what do you suggest? Tae smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I suggest we give him what he expects. You, alone and desperate. What he won't expect is the 30 men we position around that pier before you get there. He'll have men watching for that. Then we get creative. They spent the next 45 minutes planning. Sukjin's mind working through every possible scenario while his heart screamed at him to just get to Vivian. Finally, they had something that might work. Sukjin would go in alone as demanded, but Tae would have snipers positioned on neighboring buildings and a team ready to move in the water below the pier. Sukjin arrived at Pier 17 with 5 minutes to spare. The old waterfront dock was mostly abandoned. Just rusted shipping containers and broken concrete. A single light illuminated the end of the pier where a figure stood waiting. Not Volkov. Someone Sukjin didn't recognize. Young guy, maybe 28, with dead eyes and a gun held casually at his side. Where is she? Sukjin called out. Walk toward me slowly. Hands where I can see them. Sukjin did as instructed, every nerve on fire, his eyes scanning for any sign of Vivian. As he got closer, he saw her tied to a chair behind a shipping container. Duct tape over her mouth. Blood running from a cut above her eye. Their eyes met, and Sukjin saw fury there. Not fear. Even tied up and bleeding, Vivian looked ready to kill someone. Here's what's going to happen, the young guy said. You're going to get on your knees, and I'm going to put a bullet in your head. Then I'm going to do the same to her. Mr. Volkov sends his regards. Volkov's too smart for this. This is sloppy. Obvious. What's the real play? The guy smiled. The real play is that while you're dying here, Mr. Volkov's people are hitting every one of your businesses across the city. By sunrise, you won't have an organization left. Sukjin's phone buzzed. He slowly pulled it out. Tae. Boss, it's happening. They're hitting us everywhere. The casino, the warehouses, even the legitimate clubs. This is all-out war. You see, the guy continued, you killed Mr. Volkov's nephew. Eye for an eye means we take everything from you. Your empire, your life, and your woman. That's justice. That's ambitious. But you're forgetting something. What's that? I didn't come alone. The guy's smile faltered. I've had men watching this entire area. There's nobody. The first sniper shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him around. The second shot hit the man behind Vivian before he could react. Suddenly, the pier exploded with gunfire. Volkov's men, hidden around the dock, opened up on Sukjin's position. Sukjin dove behind a container as bullets sparked off metal around him. He pulled his own gun and returned fire, his mind calculating angles and distance even as his heart raced. He had to get to Vivian. The firefight lasted maybe 90 seconds, but felt like hours. Tae's team moved in from multiple directions. Professional. Coordinated. Volkov's men, caught off guard by the overwhelming response, either fell or retreated. Sukjin reached Vivian and ripped the tape off her mouth. Took you long enough, she gasped. He was working on her restraints when he heard it. A slow clap echoing across the pier. Volkov himself stepped out of the shadows, flanked by 6 men with automatic weapons. Very impressive, Sukjin. You've learned to anticipate my moves. Let her go. This is between us. No. See, that's where you're wrong. This stopped being between us the moment you decided to play house with a murderer. Volkov gestured at Vivian. Did you know the FBI has been looking for her? Did you know there's a very interested agent who would love to know where she is? Sukjin's blood froze. What are you talking about? I made some calls. Turns out your girlfriend killed a federal informant. The FBI wants her very badly. So here's my offer. You give her to them, and I let you live. You both walk away from this, and we pretend none of it happened. You're lying. Am I? Volkov pulled out his phone and made a call. Agent Morrison, yes, I have that information you wanted. Pier 17. She's here right now. Sukjin felt Vivian tense behind him. Sukjin, we need to go. Now. But they were surrounded. Volkov's men. Tae's men. And in the distance, Sukjin could hear sirens. You bastard, Sukjin said. You're setting us both up. I'm giving you a choice. Stay and fight. You both end up dead or in prison. Or run. Abandon everything you've built and spend the rest of your lives looking over your shoulders. Volkov smiled. Either way, I win. Tae's voice crackled over Sukjin's earpiece. Boss, we've got FBI moving in from the west. At least 12 vehicles. We need to extract you now. Sukjin looked at Vivian, her eyes wide with fear and determination. Then at Volkov, smug and certain of his victory. Then at the empire he'd built. The life he'd created. All of it about to come crashing down. In that moment, Sukjin realized the truth. He could save his organization or save Vivian. He couldn't do both. Sukjin, Vivian whispered. Whatever you're thinking, don't. I'm not worth losing everything. Yes, you are. He grabbed her hand and ran. Behind them, Volkov's laughter echoed across the pier. Gunfire erupted. Men shouted. Sirens wailed. Sukjin and Vivian sprinted through the maze of containers, Tae's voice in his ear guiding them to an extraction point. They reached a speedboat hidden beneath the pier. Tae was already in the driver's seat, engine running. Get in! Sukjin pushed Vivian into the boat and jumped in after her. Tae hit the throttle and they shot out into the East River, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind them like a promise they could never keep. Where are we going? Vivian shouted over the engine. Away, Sukjin said. Far away. His phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number with an attachment. Sukjin opened it and his heart stopped. It was a video. Keisha Hayes tied to a chair in what looked like a basement. A man's voice off camera. You have 24 hours to turn yourselves in. Both of you. Or she dies. And after her, we start working through everyone else you care about. Your aunt in Atlanta, Vivian. Your captain, Sukjin. Everyone you love will pay for your choices. The video ended with Keisha screaming. Vivian watched it over Sukjin's shoulder, her face going white. Oh God. Oh God. This is my fault. Keisha helped me, and now. This is Volkov's fault, Sukjin said, but his voice lacked conviction. The truth was, they'd both brought this down on everyone around them. Their pasts, their choices, their desperate attempt at something real had cost innocent people everything. We have to go back, Vivian said. We have to turn ourselves in. If we do that, we're dead. Volkov won't let us testify. He'll kill us before we ever reach a courtroom. Then what do we do? Sukjin looked at Tae, then at Vivian, then at the city disappearing behind them. He thought about Keisha, about his captains, about everyone whose lives hung in the balance because of his choices. And he made a decision that would either save them all or doom them forever. We don't run, he said. We fight back. But not the way they expect. What are you talking about? Sukjin pulled out his phone and made a call. Agent Morrison, this is Sukjin Kang. I believe we have something to discuss. But I have conditions. Tae's eyes went wide. Boss, what are you doing? Making a deal with the devil. Sukjin listened to the FBI agent on the other end, her voice cold and professional. When she finished talking, he looked at Vivian. They want us both, but they want Volkov more. We give them everything on him, everything on the Bratva, and they make the warrant on you disappear. They protect Keisha. They let us walk. You'd burn your entire world for me? There is no world without you. Not anymore. Vivian kissed him then, hard and desperate. And Sukjin tasted blood and tears and the salt of the river. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through her tears. Okay, let's burn it all down together. But as Tay steered the boat toward the designated meeting point with the FBI, none of them noticed the second boat following at a distance. None of them saw the sniper taking position. None of them knew that Volkov had one final play. One last devastating move that would change everything. And as the first bullet tore through the night air, Sukjin had just enough time to realize he'd made a terrible, fatal mistake. The screen goes black. A voice, Volkov's, echoes in the darkness. Did you really think I'd let you walk away? Drop a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because part 2 is coming and you won't believe how this ends. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.